Peacemaking makes me think of way back in high school, my senior year, the choir first sang, "Let there be peace on earth." And those words have stuck with me throughout these 50-something years. And they're still in my heart today, and I'm so happy that we're singing this Sunday. It means having peace in my heart, having peace for those I love and my neighbors that are hard to love, and translate that into action, making peace in the world.
Peacemaking, and it can't be just peace, it has to be peace with justice, because without justice you can't have peace, and they just have to go together. So for me, well, with my mission work, it's meant working in places to help bring peace with justice to a small corner of the world. Certainly people in this congregation know I've been involved with the issue of Palestine and Israel for a long time, and I've worked to do what little I can in that part of the world. The problem is that of course, is that there's no justice, so there can't be peace. On a more local level, I think it means just all the different ways that we work with the environment. We work with, we're the Reconciling Church, we're a Creation Care, we're a Peace Church, and I think all of those efforts go into helping make peace. But I think it also has to be on an individual level, that people have to have peace within themselves and peace in their relationship with other people.
Peacemaking is a way of living out my faith. Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and in the Peace Project we use the prayer of St. Francis. Let me be an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. And that's what I think peacemaking does. I think it is a way of helping us live out our faith. I think it was Andy Oliver that said to us, what would it look like if we lived into the notion of being a peace church? And this is not a new notion around here. We have been a peace church for a very long time, and we're just reviving the same notion we've had for many years.
Well, over the last few years in particular, and with social media and the state of the world, there's a lot of conflict, and a lot of us probably feel it in both big and small ways. Everything from a Facebook post and somebody disagreeing with you, to the news and war in the Ukraine, and everything in between. To me, peacemaking is, where do we bridge the divides? Where do we find the places that we disagree, whether it's talking about that Facebook post that somebody posted, or that you or myself posted, and somebody that we really care about and love really disagrees with us, or talking with my neighbor who is not a white straight woman, and finding where do our lives intersect and overlap, where do they diverge, and how do we bridge those divergences, and relationship building, and understanding where people with differences of opinion or different lifestyles or differences of any kind, where we can learn from each other. Because most of those differences are gaps in our knowledge and gaps in our understanding.
At some point, exactly when, I can't remember because, COVID, I attended a peace gathering at Pioneer Square where I met members of a team from Augustana Lutheran Church who were working as Lift Every Voice Oregon, gathering signatures for IP 17. Getting this initiative for gun safety on the ballot was going to require 112,000 signatures, especially a hard task during the pandemic. Thanks to Drew and so many of our congregation, we were able to gather dozens of signatures, combine them with other churches and organizations to get even beyond the number required. Over 160,000 signatures were taken by bus to Salem. IP is now Measure 114 on the ballot for you.
Yeah,
story or two?
I spent 3 months there about 10 years ago as a human rights observer with an organization called Ecumenical, no, EAPP, Ecumenical, Israel and Palestine anyway, and it was a church-related group in that we in the United States went out with church world services, but we worked together with internationals from all over the world, living there for 3 months and observing soldiers at checkpoints, how long it took people to get through checkpoints, helping school children get through checkpoints so that they could go to their classes, meeting with mayors and executives in towns to figure out how we could help them, help their communities. It was a Donna Pritchard, our former pastor, told me before I went that it would be a life-changing experience, and she was absolutely right.
We started, as good Methodists do, with a book. We read Peace is Every Step by Thich Nhat Hanh. Then we read The Anatomy of Peace. Then the George Floyd murder happened, and we read all the same anti-racism books that many other people read. And in addition to reading, good Methodists pray. So we started some prayer vigils during the pandemic. We had a monthly vigil outside. We had a walking meditation. And as Mary said, many of the concerns were about gun violence at that time and racism as well. So we continued along that line, thinking about, we still are a book study. We meet at 9:30 and we study books still. But we also thought, what else could we do to live out this idea of being a peace church? And we came up with a lot of things. We have a whole list of things that we might do, including working against gun violence, working against racism. The project we're currently working on is a peace guide to Lent, and we're making 40 days of a scripture, a reflection, and an action. And we'd like some help on that. We have several finished, we have some examples, but if anybody wants to join us in that effort, we'd be happy to have your help.
I would like to say I hope I'm here in 175 years, but that's probably already been said.
My hope for this church is that we can work together. We have done a good job of that. I'd like to see us do an even better job. We have a very strong clergy team right now, lots of young energy, and we all need to work together to make the most of that and to make the most of the gifts and graces and talents we have in this church, and to reach out to our community, our city, and our church as a whole.
My hope is that the church will continue to do what it's doing, but also to know more, to do more, and to know what each other is doing. I think we tend to, in a big church and in any big organization, we tend to silo. We tend to, the peace project is in one silo, the global missions is in another silo, the ecumenical ministries, the women's organization, they all work independently, and they never interact, or very rarely interact with each other and know what each other is doing. And I think there's a lot of places that all these organizations, all these subgroups in the church could work together, and that's kind of my hope for the next 175 years, is that we'll get better at talking to each other and finding out, what the person sitting next to us in the pew is doing, what are their passions, how can we help them and how can they help us?
I think my hope really is to continue leaning into being a reconciling church and focusing on peace and social justice causes, and really adding to the greater community, both in Goose Hollow, but in Portland and the Pacific Northwest in general, and really walking the talk.